Welcome, my dear students, to our session today, biology for the Form 4 class. This is our 14th lesson in the topic response, reception, and coordination. Today we are going to look at the subtopic sense organs with special interest on particularly the sense organ responsible for sight. That is actually the eye. So welcome to our session. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to relate the structure, to the function of the human eye. So in this particular session, we may not be able to completely discuss the complete human eye or the parts and the functions, but we'll have this one as the first session, and then in the subsequent lesson we'll be able to proceed with the remaining parts, the structural part of the eye and the different functions. Sense organs, as you may be aware, are actually important in all living organisms. So essentially, in higher animals, the sensory cells have become associated together to form specialized sense organs with accessory structures. So all you're seeing is a sense organ is actually made up of different sense cells and also neurons and the associated structures. So a sense organ is actually a combination of different cells that are responsible for sensory aspects. Then we also enjoy neurons in that, and the structures that are associated with those particular parts. So all that combination of the three sense cells, neurons, and the structures are actually what we refer to as the sense organs. In mammals, we have the main organs or special senses, and I'm sure you're very much aware about that. So we have the first organ is actually the eye. Eye is purely meant for sight. So the eye perceives light, and from that you can be able to actually gauge distance. You can also be able to perceive images, and therefore can be able to distinguish a house from a cow from a human being, a plant, a bird, a motor vehicle, and the like. The other important organ the other special sense organ is actually the ear. So your ears are meant for hearing. You can be able to distinguish different sounds. You can be able to distinguish music from noise. You can also hear when somebody is just actually talking to you. Then that is what brings about that aspect. Our third sense organ is actually the nose. The nose is very important in the sense that you are able to identify different smells. You can identify aromatic smells or pleasant smells from those other four smelling smells. And then we have another important sense organ, that's the tongue. The tongue is purely meant for tasting purposes. So the tongue has receptor cells that can be able to distinguish different kinds of food that you may enjoy, to be able to identify whether the taste is sour, it is sweet, or something like that. Then we have the largest special sense organ in the body, that is actually the skin. Now remember, the skin is the largest sensory organ in the body. It literally covers almost all the parts of the body, from your feet all the way to your eyelids, the nose, lips, and the like. So a skin is a special sensory organ, and it actually helps us to perceive changes in pressure, temperature, and sometimes also pain. So those are the five important sensory organs that are actually important in animals, and they play a very big important role in terms of facilitating the survival of organisms in a particular environment. For example, predators in a pack are able to perceive their source of food, the prey, by either the sense of sight. That means they can be able to see the prey. At times they can also use the sense of smell to actually identify the prey. So all this ensures that the survival of an organism within a particular habitat is well taken care of. We look at the eye in particular. The eye is actually a complex sense organ. As I mentioned, its main function is actually to receive light from which an animal perceives and distinguishes objects in its immediate environment. The eye has photoreceptors that respond to light from objects at varying distances. So the essence of the sensory organ in terms of the eyesight is that the eye is more or less like a camera. It actually receives light, and then the perception or the interpretation is carried out through the photoreceptors. These are the sensory cells that are able to interpret light, and then it is taken all the way to your brain for your interpretation, upon which the image is actually identified. Then the aspect of light distance also comes in that you are able to actually identify the distance from which organisms are in reference to the animal. That means it can be far away or even nearer. So there's the aspect of varying distances that comes into play. A stimulus, wherever light is being perceived, we have the source of stimulus. The stimulus in this case is actually the light. Light is converted into an impulse, of course, of the photoreceptors, which is conducted along the sensory optic nerve. And then it is taken to the brain where an image is actually perceived. So indirectly we are saying that we literally see with our brain. What do I mean? The eye only perceives light, it receives light. So it only allows light to go in. But how you interpret that information is dependent upon the previous information that is actually stored in the brain. But for this to happen, that light or the stimulus in this case light has to be perceived by the photoreceptors. These are the special sensory cells that are present in the eye, and then this is actually transmitted or it's converted into an electrical signal, which we refer to as an impulse, which is actually conducted via the sensory optic nerve to the brain. So what links the eye and the brain is purely the optic nerve. You might have heard sometimes back that some people who take this illicit brew sometimes, people actually end up going blind suddenly. So what happens is that the consumption of contaminated alcohol actually interferes with the sensory optic nerve. In essence, they destroy the optic nerve. That means there's no link between the brain and your eye. So whatever image your brain has stored cannot be linked to what you're seeing. So literally, you are blind because the sensory optic nerve has been completely destroyed. This is a general representation of actually what you have. These are parts of the human eye, as you can see from, it's just a simple diagrammatic representation. So we have the top eyelid, this one here. Of course, these are the eyelashes. We have the pupil. We have the iris. We have the bottom lid. We have the cornea, which is actually the clear lens. These are tear ducts that facilitates tear production, and then we have the sclera. So all those are the very basic, some of the very simple parts of the eye that can be identified easily from any organism. The location of the eye is very important. The eye is actually located in the socket of the skull, a part of the skull which we call the orbit. The orbit is very important. Bear in mind it's a bony structure. So the orbit is very important in 3 ways. In one, being a bony structure, it offers protection against physical damage. So you can imagine if your eye was just free to move and then there was no support. For example, you'd expect when you're moving and somebody hits you, you would actually cause mechanical damage to your eye. So this bony structure, the orbit, actually provides protection from physical damage. At the same time, the orbit has a fatty layer lining, which actually provides further protection, but in this case in the form of a shock absorber against mechanical injury. So when you are moving, your eye doesn't have to hit on the bony structure of your orbit, definitely. So because any movement is being regulated, it's actually being controlled by the fatty layer. Then it also provides, the orbit provides an attachment of sets of muscles that actually suspends the eye and also controls the eye movement. So within the socket, we have different muscles that suspends the eye and also controls its movement, either left or right, up and down. So these are some of the functions that the orbit actually provides to the eye. We look at the human anatomy. Actually, the eye, actually this is a general, this is a cross-section of the human eye with all the distinct parts of the eye that can be seen. So at the front here we have the cornea, this is the pupil, we have the iris, this is the lens, and then these are the suspensory ligaments that actually hold the lens in place. You have the ciliary body that controls the suspensory ligament. Then of importance, this is the optic nerve. This is now what coordinates whatever light is coming in, whatever is being formed, and then the interpretation is done in the brain. Then you have the blood vessels, the optic disc or the blind spot, the fovea centralis, you have the retina, the inner part, the L1, you have the choroid, the red, and the sclera. That's the general cross-section of the human eye, human anatomy. We'll be looking at that, those particular parts in the subsequent lesson, one by one. We take a break for this particular session.